Welkom beste mensen bij Eemland on the move. En we zijn weer terug en back to the basics zoals we zeggen hier bij Eemland. En we hebben een terugkerende gast, Gareth Gilbert. Welcome.
Good evening. Yeah, thanks for having me back.
Yeah, well, it's half a year, right? So then we need to more or less look back.
Yeah.
What your findings are and what you think you're going to do for the future.
Yeah,
I'm just one little off topic. I just realized, how are you managing this unique situation that we at the moment have with all the coaches being more or less gone for the for the national team?
It's a bit of a puzzle, I must say, but I think that's been the story. The bottom line of the story at the moment is just trying to find my feet, but also, find the right sort of balance for the club. I think, Eemland has a lot of ambition with a lot of ambitious people. So, we have to be flexible in that sense, but I think we also have to find a balance that suits us as well.
Yeah.
So, it is a challenge, but I think at the same time, a great challenge to have, right? If you have such high-level expertise in your club that's also wanted elsewhere, for the national pathway, I think it's an honor. And
It definitely helps. Don't get me wrong. It is. But it is. I mean, for us, it's because first Delta, now the national.
Yeah.
So that's a lot. That's pretty unique for us now. I mean, we never had that. So it's a good and a bad in the same way, I would say.
Yeah, and I think also from a playing capacity, I think there's a lot of players that are involved in the national pathway as well. I mean, if you look at the under-20s, I think we had 11 at one stage. Now in the men's squad, you've got about 8, or 5 to 8.
It's a lot.
It's a lot. But at the same time, I think, the higher your club goes, the more players you have, then this is the sort of stuff you have to deal with. So
definitely.
I think rather look at it as a positive way than, be down about it. I think we have to find what works best. Yeah,
It is. We're just experiencing as of yet. Like, wow, okay, this is really. It's good that we have a lot, but still, it's Hey, we're now half year down the line. Let's start with you had a certain amount of expectation when you took on the task. You're now half year down the line. What is theory and reality? How are your findings so far?
Well, look, I think it's been a fantastic start. Welcomed into the club, and it's been a great journey so far. In the sense that you're very welcoming from all members, and I think being able to meet people across the spectrum and the board, I think, is fantastic. It's been really positive. A lot of energy in the club, which is always good. And also it could be, it might be a strength, but it can also be a weakness in the sense that there's a lot of different energies going in different directions, and I think that's the key for me over this first part is the alignment within the club. I think that's the most important thing, is how we align the club on the field, off the field, and throughout the club for all its members. But saying that, I think very proud of what we've been able to put down so far. I know it might not seem a lot, but I think behind the scenes there's a lot of work going in, to not only focus on today, but more, long term, and making sure that there's, always a legacy that will continue, and to lay a good foundation for the future.
What is that, for example?
What, the legacy?
No, what you've put down so far, let's say.
Well, look, I think the biggest thing is a strategic plan that we're working on, to try and make sure that everyone gets aligned and goes in the same direction and works towards a common sort of...
I saw you presenting last week. Obviously, I've also seen you present it.
And look, I think one of the biggest priorities for me is, I believe, is culture, and cohesion, and how that ripples through the club. And I think... we had our first culture evening last week, and I think, what I got from it was great information about how the different people, from the medical team to the coaches to the board members to fans to players, see things and different things. So, again, from me, what I picked up is community. There is a feeling of home here at the club, and I think everyone, that's the common theme that came out of that evening, is that the club feels. I mean, I think every person that you go to that's at a club says that it feels like home. But I think there's a lot to play, a lot to build on that, and I think a lot to gain from that. I think if you look at where Eemland is, as we said, Eemland is probably one of the youngest clubs in the era cluster, but it's consistently climbing. And I think you see, as you just mentioned, our coaches are in high demand. Players are more and more players are coming to the club, but also young Dutch talented players are also coming to the club. I think if you look at the youth, there's massive potential here in the youth.
There is this, but we're not. And again, when you've got a son there playing, you've got better visibility when he moves up the rank. How are we actually doing at what is it? The Cubs, the juniors, and the Colts. Where are we all on the highest level?
The Colts are playing in the Cup competition, and so are the Cubs. The Cubs are playing in the Cup competition. They had a fantastic win. I think it was last weekend against HRC, which is always good.
That's always good. Yeah,
that's sort of a measure.
Especially in the youth.
Standard, especially in the youth. Yeah. The juniors, obviously it was a bit of a setback this season in terms of performance, but also, look, I think it just shows that, within the pathway, we have to have clear direction of where we're going, and that there's massive support for everyone. But generally speaking, very happy with what I've seen. Look, I can't, in terms of performance, I think, we'd probably say on field we're not where we want to be. And
on field, where you mean youth, first team, future?
I think all throughout the pathway. I think there's a lot more that we can gain there.
Is that what the Hague does? I'm getting the feeling these guys learn a certain system, certain technical capabilities from a young age on, and whatever kind of comes through talent, they know already what to do, and it's the same from the youngest youth up to the first team.
Well, I think it's a great observation from yourself there. I think, if you look at it, HRC's identity and DNA is pretty clear, right?
Yeah.
Throughout their pathway, which is, I think that's what every club needs, your identity and what your DNA is. And I think, for us, it's there, definitely there. But I think the consistency and execution of it is not there yet.
We just were discussing, I don't know with who, but from all the Ereklasse clubs, we've got the most, oldest and less attractive facilities here. All the others more or less have got, like Gooi, Great, Rotterdam, HRC, Haarlem, they all got really good clubhouses now, and everything goes with it. We're still here. Well, we're working on it. But,
But look, I don't know if you've ever heard about the gold mine effect. The facilities don't really make, who you are.
No.
I think it's great to have them. It's a nice to have. At the end of the day, I think it's more about the culture within the club. And I think, look, if you look at the mentality and the mindset at this club, it's, hard workers, and, work ethic is out of the top drawer. So, on field, I think we've shown some really good games, but then some really poor games across the board. For example, the Cubs, do fantastically well against HRC, but then, struggle against Utrecht's not a bad team, don't get me wrong, but if you beat HRC, you would expect, okay.
No, Utrecht wouldn't be a problem.
That's just the consistency that I think we're lacking at the moment. So, those three things for me are really alignment, consistency, and then, across what we were saying earlier is that identity. What is our identity? And
how would you describe that?
Well, I think it's a good question. I mean, for me, that physical, hard-working, powerful brand of rugby, is what Eemland's all about. I mean, we have never been known to play pretty, beautiful rugby.
No.
I think, to try and fight a culture or to fight something like that, I think you're going to be banging your head against the wall. And I think it's about embracing it and understanding it and getting everyone to buy into it even more than what we're doing at the moment.
No, true. Well, if you look indeed at the first team or national team, I think the front row always was heavily influenced by Eemland props in the past with Hugo Langelaan and Ross, Benny Colson, although they all had a history somewhere else. But and now maybe again with Wietse and Bilal.
Robin and a lot of young, decent Roderick. Up and coming props. That. So no, look, for sure, I think, the physicality that Eemland has is definitely something that we've sort of lacked in bits and pieces this year.
Yeah. Well, it also comes down to that scouting, right? I think we haven't been very lucky with the foreign players so far. Now again, also two are gone back. Right, one is gone, and one is getting gone.
A lot of front row injuries. Yeah, that's really unfortunate, but it's also part of the game, and it's not something that I think we can
Mitigate, no.
blame or anything. It's
No.
part of the game, and but I agree, recruitment is key, and I think if you look at the staff, I think the staff and the structure we have. If you had to look at that, the medical staff, the on-field staff that we have, and the knowledge and the experience, I think is out the top drawer.
Yeah.
Some of the best in the Netherlands. As you can see now, the men's national team, you've got Mitch and Allard both representing the club there. So
That's another one, yeah.
I think, we've got a Gareth Davies, which is in the pathway coach as well. I'm in the pathway.
Yeah, but okay, that was another question just slipped into my mind. You more or less now have stepped away from coaching overall, right? You have this role as a technical director.
Yeah.
You won't continue with under 20s.
No.
You're not doing club. What? What is? You want to get back to coaching? I can imagine.
Well,
I mean,
no, I'm still coaching the women's team.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, which
okay.
is fantastic. I think coaching one team is enough.
Yeah, well, it is. Yeah. No, true.
And look, I'm thoroughly looking forward to that going forward. I think an amazing opportunity there and help build the women's pathway. I think a massive opportunity. Really happy to be involved in that. But yeah, look, my role here, and I think that's the reason I took the role, was to be more strategic and off field and try to build something, build the environment around the players and the club, and I think, it's new for me. So obviously I think there's a lot of learnings, but I think a lot of positive experiences. And I think everything that's come our way, whether we've dealt with it rightly or wrongly, I think at the end of the day, we're only going to come out of it stronger. Yeah.
No, I just can imagine. I mean, if you've been coaching that long and now suddenly stepping back, although I have seen you take over some trainings here, again, necessary because of all the people flying out.
Substitute teacher.
Substitute teacher, indeed, because we've got all these trainers going all over the place. And you still see the passion and what is it? The entrenchment of that trade that you have. So I can imagine that it's something like, okay.
Yeah. Look, I think, I love it. I love being on the field. I love being on the field with the players. And I think I'm still going to do it here and there. And obviously being involved in this group is... But I think, for me, I really want to focus on how we can build a long-term plan for Eemland and how we can make it more successful and create an environment here that it's not only about the first team and players and the coaches, but more or less the whole club. And, for example, the referees this year, I think we've had 3 Rugby Netherlands referees moments here. We had all the Ereklasse referees over here to come and watch scrums and mauling and, have a bit of a Q&A with them. And I think it's fantastic that we're able to do that.
We still collect a lot of penalties, don't we?
Well, it's actually gone down. It's gone down,
yeah.
Well, look, I think what's great from Rugby Netherlands and the referees was that, you're able to give feedback after every game. And I think we're one of the only clubs that gives feedback every time. And, ask questions and gets feedback from them about how we're playing and how they're seeing trends within our game. And 100% our discipline, has not been something to write home about.
Well, it's also Dutch trade. We sometimes want to be holier than the Pope, and we've got a pretty physical game. So they're like, oh, there's probably something. I don't know. I'm just guessing.
Yeah.
I'm not the expert, but that's maybe something.
Well, look, I think what we have seen is the penalties go down as the games have gone on, which I think that's... You want to see trends, going down when they're like that with the referees. You don't want to see them going up.
No. Well, look at Wales.
And when you're struggling, ill discipline is obviously it comes into play. Look, I think that's something that I think has been really positive is how Mitch has worked hard to get good feedback and constructive feedback from the referees, but also give it. So the relationship, I think, is pretty positive.
Cool, good. So overall, it's a good experience. You're getting the feel for the culture and the club tendencies, and beneath that, you're able to put down the structured long-term plan.
Well, I mean, for me, maybe I'm biased in that sense. I think maybe it can always go faster, but I think I'm very happy with. Where we're going. And I think, the feedback that I'm getting is a lot of people are excited about what we want to do. The biggest thing is how we're going to do it, and can we get everyone to buy into it? And I think that's going to be a big role for myself and from my side to ensure that, people buy into all the stakeholders at the club. I think we've got massive opportunity with the plans on the table, with the stichting and with the board.
You've got one victory already, right? That you actually got the gym into the new clubhouse.
Yes, finally. Jeez. Yeah. Well, look, I think we know how important the gym is, especially with who want to be physical. Yeah. But look, I think going forward, we are already recruiting for next season. I've got one eye. That's what's great about the structure is Mitch is focusing on field. I'm focusing on everything around it, and very excited for the plans going forward. And I think if we manage to keep having the same energy, ambition, and buy-in from everyone, and I think over the next couple of years, I think we're going to see some serious steps. And cool. I think if you look at it, just something that we were looking at is how do we get more buy-in from the youth into the seniors. And I think one of the biggest frustrations I have is you've got youth teams playing at 10 o'clock in the morning, 9 o'clock, 10 o'clock in the morning, and the first team playing at 4. Yeah. How do you get them to cross paths? I think if you had to go ask some of the youth and who plays in the first team, they wouldn't be able to tell you, and vice versa. No. So one of my goals is to bridge that gap. And we've got.
Are you not dependent then on the planning of the Rugby Netherlands?
No, I think clubs can do their own planning.
Oh, okay.
We determine what time we play. I mean, for example, even the first team can decide whether you want to play on a Friday, Saturday, or Sunday.
Okay, I didn't know.
Obviously, you have to communicate with the opposition. But I also think you have to do what's right for your club and what's going to help grow your club. And I think, how we connect with the community, but how we connect within ourselves as a club is how do we get the youth and the seniors and the thirds and everyone else, to sort of be more interactive with each other. And how do we get them to cross paths? And, one of the things that we're going to look at doing is, why are we playing one game when we have 2 fields and possibly a third field in the future? Why are we playing one game at a time?
You can do, why not?
So we could be playing 3 games at one time. We've got the changing rooms, we have the facilities. And, I think that's something that we're going to be looking at quite intensely going forward is, that just because the futures are playing doesn't mean that the Colts can't play at the same time. Because at the same time, the people come to watch the futures will watch the futures, and the people that come to watch the Colts are going to watch the Colts. But if all of them are in the clubhouse after the game, that's when we start to cross paths, we start to communicate, we start to share, we start to get to know each other. And, who knows, maybe people will stay around and watch the first team. I think, ultimately, for me, I would love to see the field and facilities, full to capacity rather than, we have at 10 o'clock 100 people, 11 o'clock 50 people, 12, 80 people. If we can get all those numbers closer together,
more aligned.
I think and I think then
it becomes.
I think it's definitely going to be tough on the club in terms of volunteers and running things, but I definitely think it's a nice challenge to have a look at and see how we can. And that's just one little example of how we want to go forward with bringing the club closer together. I think if you look at the stichting with what we want to do with the players and the coaches that we want in the future, I think how we structure that and, how we as a club can and attract high-level local players, but also high-level expatriate players that are going to bring a certain skill to the country that is not there.
And can stay here.
I think Michiel said it beautifully. He doesn't want Eemland to be a train station.
No. Well, that's a lot of times you see them for 1 year and then they're gone. So you don't build continuity. That's a bit of a
and I think that's the next. And I think you're hitting all the words that that I'm looking for is, continuity. So that consistency and continuity, whether it be. We don't want coaches that only want to come here for one season. We don't really want players like that either. Ideally we want our youth players to come through, and I think by getting us closer together and sharing knowledge, I think that's going to make a big difference. But then also, by attracting high-level players that are going to come in and influence and how would I say, or influence our local players and help them develop, lift the level.
And get a different perspective.
Yeah, exactly. And then I think another exciting sort of method that we want to use is, okay, how do we get the players to start sharing knowledge amongst the CJC and the senior squad? And, you know, a lot of players going from the Colts to the seniors, it's intimidating. You know, you're going from youth rugby to senior rugby.
It's a different story.
It's a different story. It doesn't matter how good you are, whatever, you know, you're always going to have that.
You need to adapt.
You need to adapt. And, you know, when we have these culture evenings, you know, the culture is just like a muscle. You know, you need to train it, you need to put time into it, you need to invest in it. And I think, you know, something that we're going to be doing is, you know, once a month, the idea is to have a culture evening where all the coaches and board members and, you know, stakeholders get together, discuss and work out our culture, but also strengthen it and understand it better. And while we're doing that, you know, all the players from the seniors and the youth are going to be doing position-specific sort of masterclasses with each other. So the props working with the props from CJC all the way up.
Yep.
And the fly-offs are working with each other and the nines. And, you know, there again, you know, someone that's in the Cubs, you know, gets to work with a Tibber.
Yep.
Or gets to work with a Bilal. Or gets to work with a Vitsa.
Yep.
You know, and then you start to create role models. You start to create
connection, role models, and a path forward,
and cohesion.
Yeah.
I think one of the biggest things when you talk about culture, you know, culture is great, but cohesion is the secret behind it. You know, I think if players, you know, it's funny how you might select with a national team. You think we've got the 15 best players on paper. And one from The Hague, one from Eemland, and one from Khoi.
Yeah.
But when you put them together, there's no cohesion.
No, you need to build
then
that.
you sit there going, okay, why is it not working? You know, and I think the more we get to interact, the more we get to spend time with each other, the more we get to share knowledge and just get to know who we are and what we stand for. And also sometimes to show youth that this is what we stand for.
Yeah,
and this is how we
expect.
do things. And these are our standards.
Yeah.
And, you know, that for me creates cohesion. And once you have that, I mean, then, you know, players feel at home, feel comfortable, and, you know, it
can
just
build.
makes it easier.
Gareth, it sounds like a good plan. It sounds like you got a grip on things.
But long.
Thanks.
Thank
and
you.
this is different than het is weer, right?
Very. Very. I mean, like, you've got less hair than Eric.
Obviously. Yeah.
But definitely a better face.
Thanks.
Thank you very much for having me.